Yeah, baby. Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Junikala, and today we're checking out Ruins by SLATE and Ash. Extremely excited for this one because every single SLATE and Ash release means most likely top tier stuff to be seen and heard. So this kind of didn't exactly come out of nowhere. I did see one post before this came out that, hey, it's coming out in a few days. So I guess pretty, out of nowhere. But in terms of what this is, I actually have very little idea. So let's go to the website here and read through it. Right out of the gate, I see the pricing here. So full price in euros, this is going to be 279 euros. So it's, I'd say in that boutique territory. Not like, I wouldn't say high boutique territory, but definitely not free. Let's put it that way. Intro pricing seems to be 199 euros. So that's you feel that discount. Let's put it that way. What is this? Ruins is a sonic excavation. I didn't know they started doing archaeology, or this is sonic archaeology. That actually sounds kind of lame and kind of cool at the same time. Ruins is a sonic excavation that transforms the electric guitar into a study of collapse, texture, and spatial memory. Okay, so electric guitar, I'm very interested because this is very different than what we've seen from SLATE and Ash so far. Featuring exclusive performances from 6 luminaries of the experimental guitar scene, it dissolves the guitar into unstable currents of raw signal and shimmering harmony. It's very poetic. There's some kind of a demo here, or like an intro trailer thing. Not going to have a look at that because I want to go in here as blind as possible. Guitar monoliths, recorded and curated by producer Randall Dunn at Circular Ruin Studios. So, okay, Randall Dunn was also working on Spectres, I believe. I think I have that right. Let's not go and have a look at that. And Spectres was super, super cool. Let's actually look at that so that I don't get this wrong. I think this was the one. Where are you, Randall? Come here, Randall. Why are you hiding? Probably, yeah, I passed it already, I'm guessing. Come on. Why is it so hard to? There we go. Randall Dunn. Cool. So he's involved again, which is very promising, like his work. And Spectres was really awesome. So built from the exclusive recordings of 6 experimental guitarists, Stephen O'Malley, Oren Ambarchi. I don't know if he's Italian, but that's all I got. David Torn, that's a cool surname. Bill Horist. Why are these surnames so obscure? I like them, but Ben Greenberg and Arjun, I don't know how you say that. Miranda. The instrument's engine disintegrates the source material. Oh, that's a shame. You do go through all this work playing and then it just gets destroyed. I'm just kidding. The source material via tape loop inspired playback. Count me interested. Textural layering and transformative effects processing. Cool. Very happy to see this engine here because this looks very similar to, Spectre stuff, which is cool. The Ruined sessions were a series of controlled experiments. Damn, sounds like they've been building like a nuke or something. Designed to explore the relationship between space, performance, and saturation. To provide deep tonal versatility, Ruins offers multiple mic perspectives, including a pristinely captured DI, an array of tube-powered amps, an eroded stereo spring reverb. Those are magical words put together. And a cavernous reamped signal recorded in Berlin's iconic Funkhaus sound chamber. So I think that's the same one they used before. I wonder if these were done at the same time for like cost efficiency. I don't know. Maybe not. But the built-in convolution engine expands this palette further, complete with a curated library of custom impulse responses. Cool. Walkthrough, which I'm sure is fantastic. Go see that. Each of Ruin's 6 experimental guitarists was chosen for their ability to push the guitar outside traditional musical roles. Big fan of this, because I think still we have so many fantastic players out there, but a lot of the instruments we have can still be played in ways that are unconventional and interesting and functional. So very, very happy to see this. Treating it less as an instrument and more as an interface for texture, gesture, and sonic ritual. Sonic ritual. Getting religious here. Each artist was given freehand to submit fragments, loops, textures, resonances, and mechanical failures. Their work is unified by a focus on texture feedback and raw materiality, forming the basis of an instrument designed to create new timbral languages that explore the outer edges of guitar performance. Then we have some more specifics about each. We're not going to read all of this because that's maybe not the best for this demo, but we'll show every single one here just for visibility. Guitar as raw matter for immediate explorations. Why do I read wrong constantly? For immediate exploration, Ruins includes over 250 thoughtfully designed presets spanning from subterranean sound fields and digital smears to collaged rattles and tangled harmonics. This is very poetic, I will say that. Each serves as a creative foundation that showcases this instrument's sound design potential. The multi-sample engine layers guitar phases into rich, shifting harmonies, while asynchronous looping adds instability and life. The single-sampled engine reimagines details, like string scratches or amp hum, into new rhythmic or tonal elements. So this is actually practically important to know, because the instrument seems to, when you open it up, give you options for multis or the singles. Yes. So I got to know what the difference is, because we can't have a look at all of that. So multi-sample engine layers guitar phrases into rich shifting harmonies. Okay. And then we have some looping there. Single sample engine reimagines details like string scratches or hum. So it seemed like they're kind of doing different things. So I guess I would need to show both to some extent. All raw material is also provided as high-quality WAV files for use in any sampler or DAW. Playthrough. Okay, so Collage, inspired by the tape slicing techniques of Musique Concrète. I can't pronounce it like they want to, but yeah. Engine treats source sample material as collection of excavated fragments. So yeah, I think this is similar to some of the stuff in Spectres. I'm not sure. Spatial enables construction of the sound environment. XY pad blends the 4 core mic perspectives, each contributing a unique material character. Okay, then we have effects, modulation, layers. The engine features a dual layer architecture, allowing 2 independent sound sources to be layered and processed simultaneously. Each layer consists distinct set of loops and modulation assignments. Okay, cool. Randall B. Dunn is known for his ability to cohere complex or heavy material for artists such as Sun, I don't know how that's pronounced, Earth, and the late Johan Johansson. His work is marked by a performance-focused approach aiming to capture an artist's core sound without blunting its emotional impact. Cool. Very nice. In context, we have some audio examples here. What's included? 258 phrase articulations. Okay. And then you have the numbers split here between the different players. I thought they said 6. And this, oh, okay. So they're kind of like not all doing them. Multi-sample articulations between players, and then 281 sound design presets. So I think these are what we're going to try and focus on for the most part. We'll do a bit of randomly from different stuff here, but we can't do everything. I have pretty limited time here today, so we'll do our best. 4,636 raw WAV files. So there you go. Tech specs, Contact Player works, and then Contact 7.10.7 or higher. And Contact Player is as a free thing included here, of course. System. Pretty basic. They're 22 gigs size-wise, so very appealing size-wise, I would say. Certainly when thinking about the size of this here, so seems very nicely balanced. And again, content summarized there. Cool. And then you get Spectres and Runes bundle. Okay, so these seem to be sort of paired, and also, I guess, business-wise, monetarily. I don't know what word would describe that. But yeah, I seem to be bundled here as at the price of 399 euros. So there you go. Cool. Let's go to the DAW here. I will say this doesn't bode well because we're only a few minutes into this demo and it's already extremely hot in the studio. So I will be sweating my balls off and probably turning into a puddle of flesh. That's a bit of a weird way of putting it, but it is hot in here. So do forgive me as I continue to melt here. Let's go through some of the basics. So transparency, SLATE and Ash did send me this copy. So thank you to them for doing so. That being said, all opinions are my own, both in good and bad. I haven't been asked to say anything one way or the other, nor would I ever do that. In terms of what the agenda for today is, I'm just going to try and play as many of these presets as I possibly can. Like we saw, there's just too many of them to do everything. And I'm also very pressed on time today, unfortunately, more than usual. So we're just going to have to kind of randomly, not even cherry pick, because I don't know which ones are the cherries, but we're going to randomly pick stuff based on names and just plonk things out from here and there. But the point is to give you an idea of what this sounds like coming out of the box. I'm not going to get super technical about anything, if at all, unless there's something that I specifically want to tweak in the engine. So yeah, this is more just to give you an idea of what this sounds like and whether it might be for you. That being said, like I said, we can only scratch the surface. So this isn't like a full representation of what this thing sounds like. It's kind of like a random sampling, but that does give us some kind of an idea, at least at random, of what this thing does. In terms of what you'll be hearing today, it's only Ruins in action. I don't add any effects of my own, no EQ, no reverb, no compression. It's just as this thing sounds like coming out of the box. I have a limiter on my master bus to make the level more consistent and louder for this video, but it is set to be as transparent as possible. So you should hear very little or minimal, if any, coloration or effect on the sound itself. If you do happen to hear clipping, it's most likely the limiter, and I'll certainly let you know if it's not. So bear with me as I adjust that as we go along. Anything else? I don't believe so. So yeah, when you open this thing up, you get an option to choose the multis or the single thing. I think what we're gonna do here, oops, there we go. In terms of the interface here, pretty simple on this L page, which I don't remember anymore what they called it, had a special name. You see the sample here, ADSR controls, pretty simple. We got pages for filters also in structure, randomization. Okay. And here I believe this is the modulation page, this is effects page, and then preferences. Cool. So again, the style of this is made in this sort of a minimalist style. It has a name. I don't remember what it's called, the design approach, but I personally like it. It has a bit of a steeper learning curve, I would say, because things are sort of so flat and so simplistic that it can sort of turn into a sort of a kind of an even mushy field in a sense. But once you see where things are, I actually prefer this interface in the long run also, because it gives space to creativity, kind of gets out of the way very nicely once you know where things are. And it doesn't have a lot of like assisting elements in here, which can make the kind of beginning learning curve a bit steeper. But I do like myself some of these minimalist interfaces. So let's start with I wonder which way is better to do this. So one of the things I do want to know is if I'm in sound design and let's go to animations, that one has 3 presets there. So if I go into single, sound design, animations, we get more. Okay, so they are different. So that's worth noting, because that means there's a lot more stuff in here. So normally, I guess what I would show would be the singles and the sound design folder. But this library does have a kind of an unorthodox layout in that sense, because we have these different articulations, performance bits and bobs that these different players have done or have created, at least in part. So the sound design folder here seems to be smaller, because I'm presuming it's based on the multi principle here. We are going to start off with the singles here. I'm just making a hedging bet here. And we have to limit this somehow, because otherwise I'll never get through this. So can we do 5 from each? So that would be 4, 6. I think so. Cool. So starting with the singles, I guess, sound design folder, animations, and we're just gonna have to go based on name here. Start with the first one. So when you look at the keyboard there, you can see a yellow key, which I do believe signifies or shows where the original sample is. So you can start from there and then move around and hear the differences. So here we go. That is the limiter. We get a bit of like a resonance type of sound, so we'll blow that up. This sounds beautiful. Yeah, really not expecting stuff like this because obviously we're talking about a guitar. The thing about guitar as an instrument is that you can take it into a million different directions, because as an instrument, the source sound is simple, flexible enough that once you put it through a bunch of different effects, processors, etc., and this is why guitars are so popular when it comes to effects processing, is because they lend themselves really well to these things. So yeah, there's, from that perspective, kind of no limit to what this thing can really sound like. This one is called Bikes in the Night. Yeah, this is really surprising because this is very like synthy. But like I said, I guess I shouldn't be surprised considering the versatility of this instrument. I think the artist Kodomo is going to like this a lot. Land's End. Yeah, beautiful. Again, not at all what I would expect based on the description, but this is really, really cool. Let's do one more from here. Let's do Memory Tape. Yeah, I mean, just the sound design level here is insanely good. I happen to like these kind of blippy, bloppy, wonky, lo-fi-ish things, so that's really cool. Moving on to atmospheres. Let's do a few from here. Okay, so was not at all expecting that. That's kind of very soundscapey. Sounds really good though. Let's do Brutalist Chamber. Again, I mean, the sound design level here and the mixing is, as you would expect, extremely, extremely good. Rugna. What is Rugna doing here? Yeah, this is in terms of thinking about Spectres, which is a very different sort of a library, but in sort of the basic principle here, very magical things happen when you have these pre-sampled snippets, and not even phrases, but these like elements, fragments, as they call them in some cases. But when they are simple enough and you have the ability to actually map it out to other pitches as well and make it sound decent, really, really magical things happen because you have to listen to the source fragment, sample, and then understand its limitations and its peculiarities, and then how you put that together with other stuff. And this also, again, goes into the territory of the fringes or limits of tonality, in a way, at least as how I understand it, because you begin to hear weird things that lie at the very edges of sort of typical and traditional harmony. And I love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, this is definitely in that same zone, and I'm really into it. Dark Springs. That is the limiter. It's crapping out because of the low frequencies. Let's try that again. Again, with the level here, there's a lot of fluctuation. These atmospheres are a lot quieter than a lot of the other stuff. So bear with me as I try and find decent levels for each of these sounds. Yeah, that was the limiter again. Yeah. Pretty difficult to tame those resonant sounds. But again, here we have this pre-made sample, which is very simple, and it's looped at a very nice spot there. And it just puts you in a certain headspace, like, ooh, how can I write for this thing specifically? It's already like oozing, what's the word? It's implying a lot of things. And depending on who you are, as a composer, you're thinking about, oh, okay, like what can I do with that? So yeah, very, very inspiring, even with just this kind of minimal random look here. Collages. So I remember I really liked these ones in Spectres, I think. Let's have a look. And again, bear with me with setting the levels here. Yeah, that's really cool. So this is the first time I directly kind of hear the guitar element in there. Very cool. Let's do another one. Okay, sounds fantastic. That's a lot more phrasey than the other stuff here so far. Let's do retrograding. That's stunning sounding. Beautiful how the loops begin to fade out, filter out the top end. That's just brilliant sound design right there. Sounds really, really cool. Let's do Como. Yeah, beautiful. This gets into that kind of explorative territory as a composer, because obviously in that sample we have that interval and that's it. But it's simple enough that you can obviously map in your head how the music would come together with that and move things around. That yeah, explorative is the word that comes to mind, which as a composer is obviously, for me at least, pretty great. Hey, that's super cool. Obviously, you got to be careful with if you want to harmonize with that in some way, and to whatever capacity you can, assuming you want to stay tonal to some extent. But texture-wise, like, wow, that you can do some really cool stuff with that. Use that as like a foundation for a track, for example. Going into forms. You know, to keep that simple to not ruin the harmonization there, but beautiful, beautiful sound. Yeah, sounds great. And this is like a simple, great example of how the engine really makes this come alive as it scrolls forward and backwards with the sample. And I'm very impressed how organic that sounds. Not in terms of like sounding something you'd actually hear, but the smoothness of it is super impressive. Because the sustain pedal there somehow brings that distortion in there. I don't know how that's mapped, and I don't have time to check, but really cool. These can be like these are amazing elements for if you're writing a score for something. It's just like they're oozing vibe and texture and kind of world building qualities. So you can use these in that fantastically. So that's amazing. We got loops. Beautiful sort of hazy, puffy sound. Obviously not a great musical idea there, but beautiful sound. Because a lot of this kind of sampling, tweaking gets really, really harsh real quick. So the fact that they've managed to keep it sounding like smooth and puffy and soft is already like worthy of recognition there. Glooper. Yeah, this pitching in this engine just works so well, like super well. I mean, that's so oozing with vibe. It's just stunning. And again, a good example of how I like that they show the original sample there, gives context and understanding, and also like a starting point. But again, this really shines as you begin to push it to the top. So again, don't let that be a place where you stay, because it's almost always not going to be the best part of the the range. Yeah, a lot of these are very quiet, moody, vibey. So they're about like nuance and detail and texture and space. So, I mean, if you're not into that kind of stuff, then presets like that are not going to mean anything to you. But if you are, you're going to be like, oh, this is almost heaven. So movements. Okay, cool. So we got some rhythmic stuff going on here. Very cool. Getting a bit techno-ish there or something. Insanely good. Again, it's like a super raw, broken down sound, but it just, the textures remain so coherent and like chewing and effective, and nothing becomes harsh or sort of brash in a negative way. That's really beautiful. Let's do one more from here. Again, beautiful. It's really hard to do, to make it so trashy and raw and broken and torn, but still have it sound good and not become harsh. Just have it be this kind of rich blanket. That's really well done. Next up, pads. Ooh, I love myself some pads. Let's see what happens here. Beautiful. Again, very difficult to make those kind of resonant pads sound so pleasant and not have them become tiring. Blood Tree. I mean, if you have a preset like that, I gotta check that out. Yeah, really cool. Disturbing in a perfect way. probably stay in the lower zone for this for myself. And I would also like to tweak the engine a bit to, because I like it has that unsure wobbly quality, but I would like it to develop a bit more there. So we need to dig into the sample and play with the engine to see whether you get the kind of variance in there that you are after. And at the beninging. In the beninging. Yeah, so this to me, this is really cool stuff, because again, this gets in the territory of having beautiful source samples that have like an initial idea in there. And here all as well, the engine, as you can see, when I trigger the notes, they start running through the sample at different rates. And the higher it is, the faster it goes. And this creates like a beautiful, almost like a sort of canon-like type of progression there. But I as a composer, I hear the elements moving and shifting, and they are inspiring me. And as that pitch shifts, I can hear the transition into different chords, which I could limit what this does, and so that it stops transitioning into a note that I don't want it to go into. But this is like super inspiring to me, because not only are the samples doing something, the engine is doing something, and it's beautifully playing with itself effectively there. And I can listen to that and be inspired by that. But that has like, just like the thickness and the focus of this sound is beautiful. It's like capturing this sort of slightly disturbing moment in time. Very, very beautiful. Beautiful. To me, that's like a top tier pad sound. It's so fluffy. There's so much air. It's like, it feels like it's truly alive. And there we have like very, very minor, especially in the kind of lower or the mid region, I should say. It gets less so once you pitch it upwards, but slight variations in that pitch, which makes you like what's happening tonally here? Very, very minor. But I like that it creates a certain dimension to the music that's, in my experience, impossible to create otherwise, at least from the techniques that I've seen so far. But that's unbelievably beautiful. Yeah, beautiful, like dark cinematic soundscapey tool. Beautiful low end on that one as well. Super subtle, but really like drops there perfectly. Very cool. I mean, there's so many preset names here that call to me. The slight fluctuations here are super valuable. They make a huge difference in terms of the liveliness of the preset. Very cool. Do you want to do more pads here? Now I think we'll move on to ruins. Let's see what this is about. Yeah, that's going to be a walk away from me. I mean, I understand to some people that's just going to sound like crazy noise and like what the heck. But like, if you understand that sound, wow. I'm genuinely so impressed how it can be so broken, so distorted, so torn apart, so absolutely ruined, no pun intended, and still be so, it's just so balanced. Like, it's obviously a extremely like destructive type of a sound, but it's so coherent, so balanced, so well put together, and just perfectly achieves that without actually really being like harsh to the ear, like purely from like a sonic perspective. It's as less as possible actually challenging to the ear to listen to. This is just like, this is the kind of stuff that I've been looking for many, many years, to go for that kind of a sound and achieve it at that sort of a sonic level, that kind of, sound design, production, mixing. Very, very impressed. Brudette. Okay, that sounds beautiful. It's very quiet, so I need to kind of bump the level up, but like a reverse type of thing. But just listen to the details in the texture. Let me try and play a bit more of this. Okay, it's very different when you pitch it, so bear with me. Because I don't want to wander too far high up, because the pitching becomes kind of, doesn't bring out the best in the sample, in my estimation. Okay, I can't really push the harmony there either. Really cool sounds. You would need to kind of listen to if you wanted to do like harmony actually with that, kind of listen to what it's doing, how it's working. Kind of reminds me, some of the effect styles here remind me of some of the K Devices plugins, which I have demoed here on this channel and also like. There's also a new one, which I haven't checked out, but beautiful, beautiful soundscapes here. Diocletian Palace. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of like soundscapey building stuff in here. Hagar Kim, I'm guessing. So that's what the Gates of Hell sound like. Really, really cool textures. I mean, that's obviously a bit much. I would build that sort of differently, more in a sort of progressive, easier fashion. But extreme, like the textures here are stellar. That is cool as heck. The fact that it remains so playable tonally is quite incredible. Again, the texture richness here is extremely impressive. Very cool. I mean, doing some cinematic ambient with that is really nice. Okay, we got to pick up the pace here. Going into textures. Very cool. I mean, again, worthy of its name. Super rich in texture. Yeah, super nice. Extremely subtle, but absolutely stunning. As a soundscape alone, that would be amazing. But you can obviously build upon that as well. All right. Part of that sounded like a futuristic sitar. PS1. Okay. Let's do one more from here. We gotta push onwards so we get to the other ones as well. Nice, and then into tones. Getting a lot of stuff in here. There again, we have some of those sitar-y, futuristic sitar sounds. Obviously, it has like a very synth wavy 80s type of thing, but that's probably one of the best ones I've ever heard because it's just so puffy and fluffy, soft in a very pleasing way. Excuse me, clipping here a bit. absolutely beautiful. Kind of like a very soft FM-ish type of a thing there. Very nice. Cool. I think this is it for the single sound design things. I will now loop back to the multis and we'll play a few of these articulations from each of these players. I think that's fair and relevant to this library. So let's do that. So starting with Ben. Okay, so these can also be combined apparently. So Ben Greenberg and Arjun Miranda. Let's see. So these definitely, what I do appreciate is that these have, you know, quite descriptive things on them, which helps in finding stuff. That seems to at least kind of play in a sort of choppier fashion. Like it's not meant to be really moving about like that. Let's do some harmonics here. Yeah, so as we can see, the engine isn't doing much, so that's why these are kind of like, I'm seeing these as sort of individual components, elements that you can go to look for different inspiration or starting points or elements to add into your piece. So these are not meant, at least to my ear, to be like sort of as playable, ready to go presets, more like individual elements. Yep, seems to be the case. So if that is the case, let's go through a few of these other ones. So I'm a bit puzzled because this says what it is, and these are not to my understanding, guitar things. Well, they did maybe say that they were guitarists, but they didn't say that they only used guitars, I guess. That's a beautiful sample to be throwing into this engine, working a bit more. I mean, if it sounds that good on its own there, that's really cool. Let's move into David Torn. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like these are kind of raw individual elements, which you then can start working on. This is really cool stuff. I think they're using some kind of a stutter pedal there. Love that kind of stuff. Yeah, loving that kind of stuff. Guitar stuff and glitching, beautiful pair in my estimation. Beautiful distortion. I wouldn't be surprised that that was some of the source material for the stuff that I digged. Yeah, that's stellar. I think that is the source material for the crazy distorted stuff that I like. Yeah, stunning. Sound design folder. Again, we have different stuff in here. Do I dare? We can take a quick peek here. Beautiful sounding. I don't know how I could tame that into doing something I wanted to, but useful for atmospheric building. That is the limiter. Yeah, that's going to be a fantastic one for like a cinematic wave thing. Just needs a bit more effects there. Really cool. Pads, oh, there are so many. It's a good problem to have, but not for demoing. Beautiful, so full and thick and fluffy, but it's sort of just also like tonally understated and sonically maximal. I don't know how to explain that any other way, but we'll go with that. Midsummer, we're not gonna do that. Screw you, Sweden. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Yeah, beautiful. For some reason, I feel like these are sort of a bit less refined and glued together than the single sound design ones. Could be that I'm just tired, but I feel like they don't quite... I mean, they're multi, so they're combining two different things there. But could be Venice. I want to know what Venice sounds like. really cool sound. Good job, Venice. Textures. Okay. Let's do Collage. Super cool. Super cool texture. Let's do a couple of tones as well. A really interesting, cool sound. It's kind of like a weird electronic analog orchestra is trying to tune themselves. I think we're going to call it there because it's getting so incredibly hot in here and I'm running out of time. So before I turn into a puddle before your eyes, we will call it here. So, summarizing this thing, very impressed by the scope. This is one of those libraries that's kind of difficult to summarize in any simple terms. It might actually be probably the most difficult one to summarize out of all of the SLATE and Ash libraries. So in terms of the guitar influences, you can definitely hear them clearly in a lot of the sound design presets here, a lot of the source sounds. But it's by no means something I would only recommend you think of as a guitar style, cinematic, sound design type of a library. Because a lot of the sounds here really, as you listen to them, have nothing to do with the guitar. And that's due to the fact that the guitar is an immensely versatile instrument. When especially paired with effects, it becomes a lot of different things, in many cases unrecognizable. Ooh. I did not intend that. So for me, the brunt of what I'll be spending most time in here will be in the single engine, I guess, and in the sound design folder. So again, we only scratched the surface here, so I will have to touch on that because there's so many presets here, we can't go through absolutely everything, so we just can sort of skim the top and get an idea of what this is. But to me, as always, from SLATE and Ash, a lot of the cinematic, sound designy, textural things are the thing that I like most in here. This is texturally fantastic. A lot of the things that in Spectres I talked about is that you're almost like you're composing with texture as well. And that's certainly true with this. So I can see many cases in which you're working on a cinematic score, for example, and you're looking for something like ambient, soundscapey, sound designy, and then having like a simple element that's completely immersive on its own, like builds an entire soundscape on its own and has interesting, beautiful textures. So if you're writing with this, you're probably thinking about those textures a lot. In terms of the scope of this, in terms of like genre things, this can create a lot of different things. And definitely those kind of subtle ambient sound designy things. Maybe, I would say, like, for the lack of a better word, I kind of hate using this, but saying like artsy, but I mean that in a very positive way. Because when something is artsy, it's actually, related to creating actual art, and that's a great thing in my estimation, but highly, highly charged with meaning and, how should I put this? Hyper charged with like context and meaning, and they're just oozing this kind of a story is already coming out of these sounds. So that kind of stuff is what SLATE and Ash really nail. And it's really hard to make very subtle sounds that are maximally still oozing that story and that kind of meaning. You can put so little there, yet they can tell so much. So that's definitely like one of the best things about this. But like I said, in terms of the genre offering here, it's a lot of scope in here. I mean, we picked stuff randomly here to check out, but there's a lot of different kind of stuff in here. Like we had that one sort of 80s synthwavy pad thing. Then you have kind of these space pads almost. Then you have these kind of dark ambient cinematic pads. I was blown away by the super torn apart, distorted, broken, I don't know what to even call them. It's like super broken, distorted textures, but they are so well balanced. I've never heard like aggression and brokenness and torn apartness in a sonic context that's taken to the max, but it's so well balanced. Like it's a pleasure to listen to. Yeah, it's like challenging and demanding. Like it's so extreme, but it just sounds so fantastic. I think this does that better than anything I've ever heard. A lot of really cool shifting patterns in here as well. They have a lot of these kind of phrases and tiny loops as well, which are again like for me a different compositional tool. Like you hear this small pattern, this fragment, this loop, this sample, and it kicks off a cascade of ideas. And I love that because these libraries are not just great sounding libraries that have great sound, but they are inspirational. They bring me ideas that I can actually develop into compositions, and that's for me the mark of like a top tier library. Like you can't get to the top category in my book unless you do that, because as a composer, when a library inspires you to write music, that's like it's like having free lunch in a sense, but like it's super valuable. It's so valuable to have a tool that inspires to write actual music, because you can have a lot of great sounding libraries, but they don't really bring you ideas to the table, and you have to go elsewhere to look for that inspiration, which is fine, but it's fantastic when a library does that, because that idea is synced with the sound and with the engine here, and I can go directly in there and start tweaking things, and it's super like hyper responsive in terms of the speed at which you can go at when you're composing music. So again, that's what I loved in Spectres, and this is walking in those same footsteps. So I love that. I would love to actually spend more time looking for those kind of elements, because not every sound in here or preset is like that, but I really appreciate that element as well. A lot of very simple rhythmic elements, again, which are going to be super useful for a lot of cinematic writing, where you want a sense of movement, but you don't want to use percussive elements outright, but something that's tonal but has a rhythmic element. That's great. Pads here were really awesome. Again, a lot of stuff from a wide spectrum of genres, for the lack of a better word, but really cool stuff in there. The runes were really cool. This was the kind of broken, distorted stuff that I talked about. Again, textures, these are sort of more simple, less tonal, more textural, really useful. Again, you can just bring some of these into your tracks and give them this kind of visceral contextuality, I guess. I'm not trying to be fancy here. I'm genuinely trying to find words with my sleep-deprived melting brain here. But these are really cool. You can drop them into your track and they can sort of bring it alive. Sometimes you're just missing that one thing that would just contextualize everything else in your track. These can be really cool for that. Tones were sort of, at least the ones I touched on, more sort of playable, simple things, which are super nice. And again, there was that one FM key type of sound that was, again, completely different to anything else we tried in this library. So the scope of this is super, super wide. So it's kind of hard to summarize that. The multis. So to me, the articulations here strike as like these are sort of simpler components, source sample components from each of these players. And then you can take these and use them in the engine to build your own stuff. It doesn't seem like they were refined further than that, but this is going to be cool for those who just want to maybe start with a simpler component and then build from there. And to me, the sound design elements in the multis seemed less sort of polished and put together than in the singles. I don't know if that's just random chance here, but the single sound design folder sounded the most mature and polished to me. So I don't know if that's really the case with our limited peek at the multi folder, but seems like the multi was sort of leaning more towards those kind of simpler individual components rather than sort of more refined complete elements like in the singles. But this is really cool. Again, super hard to kind of summarize this because yes, it's guitar influenced and based, but that's just kind of what they started with, and then it kind of grows into all of these different satellite themes. So a lot of stuff beyond just the sound of the guitar in here. But this is really, really cool. Going to be very useful in terms of adding a lot of texture to a lot of things, which probably is one of the best ways I can kind of summarize this. But that's it for this video. If you have already grabbed this yourself, let me know what you think and let me know your thoughts. And as always, let me know what you think of this video as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.